Thank you so much, Senator Cornyn, for putting this together, and thank you, Angela, for sharing your harrowing story. It's one that conjures horrific memories and experiences that no one should have to endure, and I'm so sorry you had to endure that, but thank you for sharing your story with America. National capitals are supposed to be a source of national pride. You think of Paris, Tokyo, you think of London. They all perform that. In many respects, our nation's capital does the same. This is a beautiful city with some amazing architecture. Our beautiful domed buildings, our marble colonnades, not to mention the layout of the city, the landscaping. There's so many things about it that are beautiful. But when those same beautiful domed buildings and marble colonnades share streets with open-air crime scenes, something has gone terribly wrong. Now, let's take a trip back through history for a minute, just to reorient ourselves around first principles surrounding this city. We have to remember that the Constitution itself doesn't mandate its existence. It doesn't mandate the place for the seat of our national government. During the early years of the Republic, our national capital has been housed, albeit temporarily, in Philadelphia and New York. In theory, if we wanted to, we could put our national capital somewhere else. But we do have authority to designate a national capital, which we've done by statute. That authority comes under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution. But it's put in there with may language, not shall, that we may designate a city to serve as our nation's capital. And it says something important, that when we do exercise that authority, we are to be the sole lawmaking organ for that capital city, to exercise exclusive legislative jurisdiction. Now, over the last 52 years, since the D.C. Home Rule Act of 1973 was enacted, we have outsourced that authority to D.C.'s local government. Regardless of the intentions that went into that, we can see that it hasn't worked out well. Whether you call it a failure to supervise the D.C. government by Congress, fair accusation, I suppose, or whether you call that just a failure to act appropriately by the D.C. government, or a combination of the two, and I think that's fair too. We've ended up in a situation in which I think few members of Congress, few members of the House or Senate, cannot say that they haven't experienced personally, through family members, through staff, probably all of the above, the effects of D.C. crime. The fact that it's been getting so much worse over the last few decades, we've seen this city sliding into deeper levels of chaos and lawlessness. Last year, this city recorded more homicides than at any point over the last 2 decades. And carjackings have doubled. You've got families, workers, local residents, and tourists from all over the country who have experienced this. And in many cases, people have become targets who work here, not just in the city, but in some cases on Capitol Hill itself. President Trump was able to see what every American could see if they had eyes to see it and an opportunity to witness it, which is that this is out of control. And I want to commend President Trump for doing what he did, because in just a few weeks' time, we've seen real results. Once he deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to help, in just 3 weeks, we've seen violent crime cut nearly in half, burglaries down 48%, car thefts down 36%. That's what real leadership does. It's what real leadership looks like. Now, back to the beginning of the story, where we went back in time and remembered what the Constitution does and does not require, and where our capital has existed in the past. Let's remember why that authority was given to Congress to begin with. Those who framed our Constitution and wrote it, drafted it, and ultimately ratified it, understood the reluctance on the part of the founding generation to place our nation's capital inside of another state. They didn't want any one state to have an outsized influence on how our national government would work. And they knew that was always a risk, as long as it remained in Pennsylvania or New York or any other state. That's why they created the authority under the so-called Enclave Clause, Clause 17 of Article 1, Section 8. They wanted any seat of government that we might establish to be immune from the vicissitudes of a local government, particularly if policy choices were preferred by that local government in a way that were inconsistent with the national will. That's why Congress is in charge of making D.C.'s laws. So look, if we can reform the home rule status, we can give that a try. But we have to remember this is authority that is ours. It's been delegated unwisely in my view. If we can reform that, then let's do it. And President Trump's action is an important first step in that direction. But to the extent that that experiment is not able to work out, then we've got to be ready to do what needs to be done and undo home rule. Ultimately, it is the 100 senators and the 435 representatives who are in charge of making law and policy, because this city is different. This is not just a local city, not just a city with a local constituency. This has a national constituency. And if crime is a problem here, we have to own it. It's ours to own. And I applaud President Trump for taking this important first step in that direction. And looks like